Hello and welcome to this week's Wellness, Wealth and Mindset Weekly, just personal lessons and experiences from our past week. So in today's episode, we're just going to talk about tiredness, and if you're feeling tired all the time, what things and strategies you can do to help support that. I'm also going to focus on how I ended up in 12 grand of debt and the mindset I had around money that affected that. So stay tuned to the very end to get a big insight into my wellness, wealth and mindset weekly this week. So let's dive into this week's episode. I run a community online for amateur cyclists who are looking to lose weight and just manage their health off the bike as opposed to on the bike. And what's been coming up recently in a lot of questions and conversations I've been having is around feeling tired all the time and how you're able to improve that. And how much energy you have throughout the day and how you can understand how that's going to affect you is really, really important. It's vital to understand these factors and understand certain factors that can go deeper so you can be more mindful, certainly of supporting what drains you of your energy on a day-to-day basis. And that can be related to work, home life, your activity needs and activity output alongside your rest. So I decided to do a webinar on how to support your well-being when it comes to not feeling tired all the time and strategies that you can do in more detail. And this is about a 45-minute webinar where you can access this for free if you join my free community, which is over on Facebook. The link will be in the description to this video or the show notes to this podcast. So if you're an amateur cyclist and you're looking to improve your overall well-being, cycle faster, recover quicker and lose up to 30 pounds in the next 90 days, then check out the community, load of resources that you can access. And also if you're looking to just improve your health overall, you can access that as well, because there's plenty of free resources and weekly masterclasses going out to support your health and well-being. So I'm just going to give you a little overview though of what we covered in that week's masterclass, just so you got a shot of the key that you can focus on to help you manage your energy and improve your energy on a day-to-day basis. And by surprise, number one was sleep. Sleep was the number one factor that I addressed in this week's masterclass, and also the factors that are around sleep that can help improve your sleep, help you get good amounts of sleep, and also improve the quality of sleep to optimize it as best you can. And below the main factors that I discussed, and we're just going to highlight them now for you, and in order to get a good sleep routine and build a healthy sleep schedule. So key factors are aim for 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night. This is for all adults. Children and teenagers may require more sleep, so if you do have teenagers or children that do sleep in, allow them to do so to a certain extent because they're going to need more sleep than adults. So that's when our bodies are growing and thriving, so sleep is when our body will rejuvenate. So getting good amounts of sleep at a young age is really, really vital. We focus on infants, they're sleeping all the time and they're growing rapidly because obviously that's when the body actually grows and gets all the nutrients that we're exposed to, and then develops, the brain develops and the body develops while we're sleeping. Allowing people to sleep is really, really vital. In order to get a good night's sleep, you want to try and improve your sleep habits. So what I mean by that is focusing on a constant nighttime sleep routine. So this is avoiding screen time at least an hour before bedtime and using that time to unwind, such as meditation, yoga, a little bit of reading, and trying to make the room that you're in really dim as possible. So you want to avoid as much artificial light as possible in order for the body and the brain to slowly switch off and get into sleep a lot easier. So if you are on your screen, and we're all culprits of that from time to time, the body is being stimulated by the blue light, and that blue light stimulates the brain thinking it needs to be ready for action, when in fact, obviously we don't need to be in a fight or flight situation. So when we do try and go and get our head down, then our brain is still stimulated, and obviously you're going to struggle to switch off and get to sleep as quickly as you would like. So ideally trying to get to sleep within 15 minutes of turn the light off, then that's the key. If it's taking you longer than that, obviously try and review your sleep schedule so you're avoiding as much artificial light as possible before bedtime. Also, another point that we discussed as well is try to avoid caffeine and focus on avoiding caffeine at least 12 hours before bedtime. Also try to avoid caffeine within the first hour upon waking. Research recently has come out to highlight that suppresses your natural sleep hormone adenosine, which is naturally released in the first hour upon waking. So if you do have a stimulant such as caffeine within that first hour, essentially you're just suppressing that hormone, which in turn then is being burnt off throughout the day, which is then going to potentially increase your risk of having more of a crash in the afternoon around that sort of 3 o'clock afternoon time that we all tend to experience from time to time. So try to avoid caffeine within the first hour upon waking, and essentially try to limit any caffeine 12 hours before bed to give you a good opportunity of sleeping well when it comes to bedtime. Also, a consistent sleep schedule, so going to bed and getting up at the same time. Body really loves a good routine. So if you're going to bed at the same time and getting up at the same time, the body's getting more conditioned to switch off at the correct time and also being more awake when you naturally wake up. So you might find over time that you'll wake up naturally without an alarm. And also when you're going to bed, if you're going to bed regularly at 9 o'clock, for example, you're going to start feeling tired around 8 because your body's getting conditioned and ready to switch off around 9 for when the lights are out. If you're going to bed at different times, 9 o'clock one night, 11 o'clock the next night, and getting up at different times, then your body's not really going to know where it needs to switch off or it needs to be more stimulated to stay up. So we tend all to have an alarm to get us up most days during the week. So it's important that you also set an alarm to remind yourself to go to bed at the same time as well, because it will also help certainly improve your sleep quality and routine going forward. This will take a little bit of time as well. So if you've had a bad sleep routine for a while, don't expect this to change overnight, but certainly if you stick with it, habits are formed over months, weeks and years. So what you'll find is that the longer you're consistent with this, just like the easier it will become, and the body will be more conditioned and find it easier to get to sleep because you're being consistent with those habits. If you chop and change week to week, obviously your habits are not really going to ever stick, and obviously you're going to still struggle with your sleep. So be consistent with those habits, and that will help you improve sleep quality in the future. And getting adequate sleep is really essential for the body, like I said, to rest and rejuvenate, and this includes reaching our REM and sleep stages. So it's really important that having this kind of routine will help us get adequate amount of sleep going forward. Last point I want to highlight as well is alcohol. If you do have alcohol before bed, even one alcohol can impact your sleep. I think that's up to about 10%. If you have, say, the recommended daily over the course of the week, that can have like a 50% negative impact on your sleep, because alcohol prevents the body from going into a deep sleep, and that's when our body really rejuvenates and revives in order to progress the next day. So if you are drinking alcohol, you might get off to sleep quite easily. Essentially, you might pass out from the alcohol, but your body's not fully rested. So if you have had a drink and you're feeling tired the next day, and especially maybe a couple of days after you've been out, it's because your body's not actually rested properly. So try to avoid alcohol as much as possible, because that will also help to improve your sleep quality going forward. So that was just a summary of what we covered, along with other factors that you can do to contribute to the feeling of being tired throughout the day. And if you want the full access to the masterclass, like I said, just click the link in the show notes to this podcast or the description to this video. It's obviously in the newsletter if you get it emailed out to your inbox as well. So just click the link. If you're not a member of the group, it's for free. You might just have to request to join if you've not joined already. And then you can access that masterclass alongside a host of others that we've done over the last 3 or 4 months. So please join in and ask any questions if you've got any within the community as well. We'll see you there. In terms of wealth this week, I've talked about how once upon a time I was £12,000 in debt and how this accumulated very quickly. What I didn't mention at the time was the situation that led to this. So I want to explain that to you now. So if you're struggling with money, obviously it's quite paramount within society at the moment, the cost of living crisis, etc. So I just wanted to share my experience to give you an insight in terms of how easily getting into debt can happen and the lessons I learned from that. So previously, I've never been in debt. I've had a credit card before, so I'm talking about more credit card debt, not talking about mortgage debt, because mortgage debt is a different kind of debt to credit card debt. And obviously, we're quite happy to take on a mortgage in order to have a home. However, credit card debt is at a higher interest rate, so we do struggle and have to pay that off at higher interest as it would do on a mortgage. So generally, I've managed my money really well. However, this all changed when I moved to London with my girlfriend at the time. And moving to a big city, you're excited to taste what it is and what the city has to offer. And we soon started going out, eating out a lot, and trying to enjoy the sights and what was available in a city like London. On top of this, I was supporting both of us, and I had to take my share of the housing and living costs because she was studying at the time and I was self-employed, and starting work in a new city at the time can be quite slow to begin with. So this meant that I was borrowing money on my credit card to pay for the council tax, the bills, some living expenses, all while trying to maintain or upkeep some form of a lifestyle that we had prior to moving to a city like London, where essentially our expenses were a little bit more affordable in a city that's obviously not as expensive as a capital city like London. So this situation was very different. The job that I had back in my city was more stable. Like I said, the cost of living was not as expensive as the capital city is. So on top of this, the relationship also wasn't great, and spending money on meals out on holidays generally we thought would be like a magical way of solving deeper problems that we were generally facing at the time within the relationship. And as a result, slowly over a period of about a year, I racked up £12,000 in credit card debt. And what was this for? At the time, this was to present certainly a lifestyle that we or maybe one of us wanted more in our relationship. We actually were able to sort of base our financial situation at the time based on that. So, our happiness was based on more material goings than internal. The relationship wasn't good, so we reached out internally all the time to find some form of connection and joy, because within the relationship itself and maybe personally within ourselves on a deeper level for each other, we weren't really that open, so we weren't getting the connection that we would like to have, obviously, so we were searching externally to get that form of connection. So what happened in the end? The relationship failed, we went our separate ways, but I was still left with £12,000 of debt hanging over me. Now, thankfully, I managed to get out of debt, which is going to be for another time where I discuss how I managed to do that. But the experience certainly leaves you with scars, and these scars certainly became lessons of how I was able to sort of manage my finances better and be on a road to a more financially stable one as a result of it. So certainly to summarise, what you see on the outside of what people have in a material sense is maybe only masking them to protect what's going on behind closed doors. And while I have no doubt that, having more money and being more wealthy can bring more happiness and stability, I feel it's important to remember that we don't know the whole story, and our actions in trying to keep up with the Joneses at the time can be to a detriment of our own wealth in the future. And this was what happened during that period. We were trying to keep up with everybody, moved to London, still wanted to kind of go out and enjoy ourselves and have fun and not feel like we couldn't enjoy ourselves in other way, where there's ways, especially even in London, of enjoying yourself for free. Load of museums you can access for free, but we always feel isn't maybe as valuable as paying for something. And I completely agree. If you want to pay for something like coaching or a good holiday, you're going to pay a little bit more, but you need to have a balance in terms of where you are in your finance situation at the time. And at that time, maybe we weren't honest enough with ourselves to understand that we needed to spend less. And certainly for me, I wasn't open enough at the time to address those issues and talk about those issues and be confident enough to do that, because I wanted to try and make the relationship happier. But essentially, that was a lost cause anyway. So it's just something I wanted to share with you there today. And also, this leads me on to the final point of this week's newsletter, is just mindset, and how we spend our money is also down to how we manage our minds. And if you take the example, being more open around the time of my finances, then I might have avoided being £12,000 in debt, because we were really talking about money more openly, where we never really talked much about money. And I had, kept everything to myself and buried it myself, and it was my problem. I had to manage it myself. Talking about it would have probably got some support from maybe a partner or other people around you to manage that as well. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is that we need to be more open, not just around our finances, but other insecurities that we might experience as well. And brushing everything under the carpet and expect everything to be okay is generally a recipe for disaster. Personally, it only led me to feeling more angry, frustrated and insecure, and then that only translated into more arguments from my partner at the time, and the situation becoming worse. So as a result, this certainly led me to a journey of being more honest and transparent, and that has continued today and will continue going forward. So I think it's really important that we face up to these uncomfortable conversations about money, health and relationships, because these are really important conversations for us all, for us to grow as humans. And there's a little quote that I just want to share with you, which says, when you stop growing, you start dying. So working on your mindset to help you understand why you spend so much money or why you overeat or why you fail to trust in a relationship, are all examples of work you have to do in order for us to change and start to heal. So in order for us to communicate more in society and enjoy a life that is certainly more honesty and more openness and transparency will help us achieve that. And this is just some experiences that I've shared and what I'm sharing personally and lessons that I've learned. Hopefully you maybe can take on board or relate to any of it in terms of the lessons that you might be able to get from what I'm sharing with you today. And, personally, the fact that I'm now more open and continue to be has certainly provided me with better relationships in a personal sense and a professional sense. They are now deeper, they're more connected, and these relationships I have with my friends that I've known in a short period of time are certainly more connected than friends I've had for more years that I've known for a long time, but are as open and honest because our relationships are certainly different. So you can have a deeper connection very quickly with someone by being more open, honest, vulnerable, and transparent, as opposed to trying to present a mask that you would like to present to the other person and hide behind that mask. And you can only hide behind a mask for a period of time before it becomes exhausting and your true colours will come through. So I think it's important to take, some time out of this week. Think about being more open. Think about being more transparent in your life with close people around you. Start small, build up gradually, and this will definitely help you train your mind to know that being more open isn't going to be as disastrous as it might think in our head. And generally, they're the stories that we just tell ourselves, and most of the time we tell ourselves more negative stories than positive ones. So let's be more open. Practice by being more open and honest with others this week. And if you are and you found this, then let me know how it's gone by sending me a message over on Instagram. And you can follow me over on Instagram at Neil Damrell, and send me a private direct message if you found that this has been helpful and maybe you want to take steps to be more transparent and open and honest. And if you've got any questions related to that, certainly let me know as well, and hopefully I can share what steps I took in order to become more open and honest and comfortable in those insecurities within myself to help me make my relationships more connected and deeper than ever before. So love to know how this has gone for you, so let me know over on Instagram. And finally, a little quote I'm pondering, still reading the book Essentialism and by Greg McKeown, and he mentions within the book at the moment, the best asset we have for making a contribution to the world is ourselves. So understanding our mindset, our health, like we talked about, improving your tiredness and understanding your sleep, then the healthier you are, the more better and more you're going to contribute to everyone around you. So hopefully that will translate and relate to you in today's episode, podcast, YouTube video, wherever you're watching this in your leisure time. And like I said, if you're interested in joining the community, there'll be a link in the show notes and description to this video, and you're more than welcome to join for free and access the full webinar where we discuss full topics that you can access and improve your health, help you manage your weight, improve your mental well-being and physical well-being, all within our weekly masterclasses for free over on Facebook. So that just wraps up today's episode. So thank you very much for listening again. I really appreciate you tuning in week after week. If you're enjoying it on the podcast, then happily please send us a review over on iTunes. Really helps the podcast push that out to more people and grow the podcast as we like to do going forward. And if you've got any questions, don't forget to hit me up on Instagram, DM me. Happy to answer any questions you have going forward. But thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you again next week.